Hello, nice person. This week, Counter-Strike gets a nice update. Come watch this nice video to find out what's going down. The game is getting a new, nice, improved animation system, which apparently requires they remake everything. Today, it's just the chickens and the weapon animations that are getting overhauled. When staring at the chicken's backside, I struggled to tell the difference, if I'm totally honest. The new one seemed wobblier, and maybe not in a good way. Same with this Glock once equipped. But overall, when I compared the gun animations, I definitely saw the differences. It's hard to say which is better, they both seem pretty good and smooth looking even when slowed down to just 25% speed. So I imagine the new Anim Graph 2 system that they're moving to will improve other stuff behind the scenes in some way, and that Valve simply took this opportunity to also remake all of the animations a bit better than they were before, with fewer fingers passing through stuff and fewer fingers bending back too far and so on. They point out later on in the patch notes that sounds associated with these animations have also been improved now. But it hasn't been without its problems. My AWP skin was broken, as was everyone else's, according to Reddit. Another reported that the empty mag sound on the M4 is missing. And another pointed this out. But that's to be expected with changes. Valve are just a small indie company and can't be expected to test every single update they roll out to this game. They'll eventually get there with enough Reddit posts to help guide them, so keep them coming. For a while, quick switching to speed up reloading was a thing. I got very excited for a second, thinking skill had finally been introduced to the art of reloading. But this was unintentional, and a later update reverted this. In fact, a bunch of issues I've already shown in this video have already been addressed in this later update, so the sole employee responsible for CS2 updates seems to be working really hard to fix as much as they can. Well, there are probably multiple people working on the game. A very interesting post recently on Reddit claimed all sorts of fascinating stuff, like how CS2 was only meant to have been released last month. They talked about how many people were working on the game, how Valve was trying to ignore the cheater problem, and how a new Anim Graph 2 system was being implemented. We all thought he was crazy, but with this very specifically named Anim Graph 2 system now being released, people are like, wait a second, this guy might know what he's talking about. And they're looking back through the rest of this post as though it's prophetic. What else about it could be true? And here's how some of the other weapon animation updates compare as well, just to get a taste of the size of these changes. A lot of these changes I'd be surprised if people spot in practice. Just a slightly different finger placement here or a slightly later sound effect there. But I suppose it's nice that Valve are going through and clearing up all of these things one bit at a time, so I'm not going to complain about this. There have been improvements to damage prediction when moving. This is one of those toggleable features that will show damage on enemies immediately, even before the server has confirmed that you've actually hit them. And this can lead to awkward situations where it gets it wrong and the shot that you thought you hit gets retracted retroactively. So hopefully that will become less of a problem now. Another unrelated update is that now if you interrupt the reloading of a shotgun, it won't automatically resume the reloading once the firing has finished. Previously, you had to de-equip and re-equip the weapon to prevent the reloading from activating automatically again. Do you like surf? Yes, me too. A lot of the updates seem geared around that game mode, finally fixing that bug where you randomly lose momentum, which can be quite annoying. And as you can see here, it still happens. Valve, please fix. Again. And a bunch of sounds have been added, presumably a sliding sound like which varies depending on how fast you're going, and also a sound to simulate the wind blowing through your hair at varying speeds. I say presumably because I just couldn't get these sounds working, even when I ramped the volumes up to 11. Valve, please fix. The community server browser now opens as an in-game version of it when you're in Fullscreen exclusive in Counter-Strike, which will stop that annoying freeze as you tab between the game and other stuff, which I think is quite handy. And the maps have received various changes which I've spent a day of my life investigating, because some were missing from the patch notes. We'll start with Dogtown because its changes are the shortest, but not the simplest. It claims to change the lighting at CT spawn a bit. I couldn't actually see this beyond the subtle change in the way that the wet bits of decking intersected with the drier bits of decking. It looks as though the puddles have been made deeper and the edges more defined, rather than the previous version's damp but not wholly sodden look to a lot of the surface. The cube map's reflection looks different, presumably as a result of this, though according to their workshop page, there were other issues in this region of the map which needed addressing as well, like this disappearing tower just here, or various Z buffer fights going on in this area here, or this unrendered surface just under the wood here. Literally unplayable. And how about this one here? Do you see it? No? There you go. Literally unplayable, and they are yet to be fixed. You know how the old, new version of Cache slowly lost its greenery as time went on, and I slowly lost my shit. Yeah, the same might be happening to Inferno here. It's gone through a significant dumbing down, and nowhere in the map is safe. Banana feels like but a flaccid, limp version of the strong, hard root it used to be. This plant has gone as well, and so has this chicken. Baby. They've stripped all its Christmas lights away. They've removed some of the flower boxes on the walls. And to add insult to injury to 3-inch men everywhere, they've obstructed sightlines beneath these barrels here, which will better hide the feet of people hidden behind these barrels. And they've definitely done something to the way that shadows behave across the entire map, and possibly the reflections too. Oh, and they've reinstated that irritating railing that you have to jump over to get into bomb site A from the house bit. Even the beautiful parallax effect on the windows everywhere isn't safe. It's all been flattened. I initially feared they'd removed it entirely, but it seems like they've just toned it down a bit. I mean, previously you could view it from a sharp angle and see the curtain appearing to lead off into the distance forever, so reducing the effect is probably for the best. But no more flattening, please, Valve. I like my bumps. Bombsite B has had a few interesting changes made to it though, like to open up the remaining windows between the church and the site, which should lead to some fun new smokes and grenades to confuse all the pro teams in Cologne this weekend. They've narrowed and simplified Diggity, or whatever you call this area here, which makes the height that heads will pop around the corner at a bit more predictable now. And this box right here has had more stuff stripped off it, presumably to make it a bit easier for attackers to check if anybody's up here without straining their neck too much. The lighting near CT spawn has been changed to emphasise the impassable decorative door here slightly less, maybe? And the curbs in middle have been removed to flatten the whole place a bit, although it's still at a slant, isn't it? At least we get some more leaves on the ground just here. I'm clinging onto the small things here because the big things are being removed. I also noticed that the door in apartments has been fully opened, which I suppose makes this area easier to navigate, but in practice it feels like you can't get as close to this door as you should be able to. And here's a look up at mid to the new adjusted looking building, which has been made thinner, which allows for more light to hit the T entrance to middle, which makes the whole place look brighter and more cheerful. Overpass has also had a bunch of changes which feel like a return to an older period for the game. The map has got a bit foggier. Yes, foggier. Valve once made the argument that fog can sometimes make distant enemies stand out better against the background, which everybody disagreed with, but I guess it now makes more sense now that they've got all the character visual sharpening in place. I guess we'll see. And there are lots of wires around the place again, which look nice and give you more to line grenades up with when you're looking upwards, and more pretty shadows to appreciate when you're looking downwards. All these walls have been flattened out, which I don't think looks as pretty, but it certainly makes grenades behave more predictably now, as previously they could bounce off in all sorts of creative directions depending on which bit of the rubble they hit. I guess this is the reason for this change too, unless there was another sneaky olive boost here that I was unaware of. This canister has moved a bit, though it is a physics object and they tend to do that. This weird black glitch above the door has gone, and it feels like the radar has been updated, as previously it didn't seem to account for the layout of the play area or anything like that. Problem is, it no longer shows all the outlines of the important sections of the map anymore, like T-spawn. Valve, please fix. This corner just down from bombsite B has an extra decal added to it, which nicely demonstrates that more is sometimes less, because now there's a very clear, unnaturally straight dividing line between where the dirt is and where the dirt isn't. Ugh. But this is distracting from a bigger issue, because isn't it a shame that the map remains waterless? This was the big selling point of the map. I want to be able to wallow in sewage water again, Valve. This guy gets it. Please, Valve, make us happy. And this railing's been moved across slightly to make it easier to dive bomb into the mud at bombsite B without getting your pants snagged on it. Oh, and the truck at A has been shifted along slightly. That's probably the biggest update this map has received. It's hard for me to explain what this achieves. It changes everything really. It blocks some sightlines a bit more, but opens others up a bit more. So here's how it looks from a variety of different corners and entrances. See, they've trimmed the verge on this corner here as well. Nice. Oh, and bombsite A's markings have expanded outwards in all directions. Does this mean the site has got bigger? No, it just meant you could plant the bomb outside the designated area a bit previously. Valve has fixed. Train. Train is a map, the least successful map, according to recent data on HLTV. So it makes sense that it's seen some of the biggest changes this update has to offer, namely lots of new crates everywhere, a large crate and extended platform at the entrance to B which handily obstructs this sightline from upper and makes it generally less risky than it was previously to push into the site. Also note how the lights have been shifted to emphasise the entrance to the site more. For all the new players that Counter-Strike is amassing, CT Long has received the same treatment, a few extra crates to add cover for people entering the site from this area. This extended upper platform also helps to make this entrance feel warmer and cozier, but only by a bit. It's still terrifying to push the site from this angle. This bunch of crates just here makes this a very exciting corner for CTs to now hold and to camp in, with the added possibility of climbing up them to reach the top of the train. The stripes around the edges of the site have been cleaned up to improve readability, a bit more crate cover has been added to Ivy to make it even easier to smoke the whole thing up and to make it an even more godforsaken place to blindly rush through. There's been a crate added here as well, which harkens back to an earlier time for the game, because this corridor was too open for a while. And check out Valve's simple trick that they've used to optimise this area. They've simply covered the windows. There was always something dodgy about the way that stuff outside these windows was being rendered, so I'm not too surprised they've just done the easy solution here, even though it always breaks my heart for such an optimised game to compromise further on its looks. And it looks like these windows here have also been sealed up. The big ones along the side can still be seen through, and if I'm honest, I never really noticed you could see through these top ones in the first place. This room always felt very enclosed to me, but even more so now. I'm sure this update lays important foundations for the future of the game, but given how much there was to cover, there's not actually been that much to cover. Enjoy the new crates.